Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clock has got some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. As always, although this is chapter 8, you do not have to have watched the previous in the series for this video to make sense. But if you would like to support my baby chick of a channel, please consider subscribing and liking and go watch those other videos. Chapter 8, Wise Words, Crumbling Conviction. Dispensing wisdom she couldn't apply. In this chapter, we find our princess spending all of her time and affections on her growing number of subjects. As time passed, the cheers from her adoring public grew louder as she danced and weaved spells for their delight. Over the glee, however, she started to become aware of harsh jeers that seemed to slice right through the roar of the crowd and lay over her. This did not go unnoticed by her monster, who, by now, was large enough to hang off every word and every action, waiting and ready to intensify and twist those same words to use them as weapons against the princess. It mimicked their tone to make her flinch deeper. It echoed their words to make them seem louder, in essence, manipulating her perception of how deeply she was hated, and in turn, how deeply she hated herself. With the monster growing in size, it fed on her spiraling insecurities. The princess was desperate to find solace within the castle walls. She found herself in the castle library that was covered floor to ceiling in old, dusty tomes, full of ancient wisdom from those who walked before her. She devoured book after book and felt a surge of renewed conviction, ready to return to her subjects, for this was not just a way to teach, but also to communicate how she had been harmed. The princess dispensed her wisdom from newly learned texts. She desperately wanted to believe her own words, but never finding quite the right ones to fit, almost like trying to force mismatched puzzle pieces together. And all the while, the monster noticed every hesitation. And so the princess went on. With her declamations and her magical shows, she noticed that some performances drew louder cheers, longer gazes. Something about the court's attention had become more intense, more hungry. She noticed what held them the longest and found herself adjusting her performances in small ways. Barely noticeable shifts, and the monster noticed it too. It whispered about the price of relevance, that their love depended on giving them what they desired. Relevance, after all, required some flexibility. Meanwhile, the wisdom she had learned and preached grew more and more distant from the choices she made. So today we're going to be covering vlogs part 1. She did a lot of vlogs this year and it was almost half of her released content. So I've decided to break them up because there's quite a bit of interesting content within this. And for my nuggets who are watching this when it was released, if you've been on the journey with me that has just recently developed the incident of her Mother's Day live stream, I think you will be with me when you see the contrast from what we've just been dealing with and the coverage that I've just been doing compared to how she is in this video. I found it to be just so confronting because I think that we're in a place that is increasingly getting more hazardous, shall I say, and to see her being so vibrant and imaginative and even cognitively speaking, she is so much more with it at this point. Although, do not mistake me, I'm not saying that she was in peak health at this point. It's just the contrast is striking. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hello you guys, it's Eugenia. You're probably wondering why I'm outside right now instead of being in my room where I'm always in. And the reason I am in the outdoors, actually in the outside world, is because I'm actually away for a week and I'm up in Massachusetts and I don't have nice lights that make, that make the lights look nice on me. Now, I don't know what I was thinking when I was packing because I basically forgot everything important that I would need. It's so cold.
So straight off the bat, I think you can see what I mean. This is just so incredibly different than what we've been dealing with. And if there's any future nuggets listening at the moment, you can go back and watch the Mother's Day situation if you really want to get a a feel for what we're dealing with in real time. But yes, let's continue.
The first thing that I realized I forgot when I got here was I realized that I forgot my computer charger, which for me is a disaster. I woke up the next morning and I realized that not only did I forget my computer charger, but I have also forgotten my eyeliner. My eyeliner is the most important part of my makeup to me. So when I lost that, I kind of felt like I was losing a part of myself. It was just one of the biggest disasters that could happen to me. I kind of feel like a different person when I don't have my eye makeup on. Basically just had to like hide my face from the world that day and just like put all my hair in front of my face since I didn't have my sunglasses.
I thought that was a little bit funny because, you know, the quintessential emo glam that she is rocking is the hair not always in the face in some capacity. I mean...
Also, for reasons that I cannot say at the moment right now, at this moment in time, I also no longer have my computer or phone charger or computer charger or any of that stuff because for reasons that I cannot say, they were taken away, and I will probably be able to tell you these reasons in the future because a lot of crazy things have happened to me in this week that were just crazy that I never really thought would happen.
Okay, so I have not done the second part of the vlogs yet, but up to where this one covers, which is most of the way through the year, she does not actually clarify what this is. So tell me if you know what was happening at this time. Maybe she mentioned it on social media, or maybe something has been deleted because perhaps there was some legal things behind it. But I'm almost wondering if maybe things needed to be handed over to the police for some reason. And I'm thinking perhaps, you know, inappropriate content was shared with her as an example. But like I say, I don't know what this means. I hope it's not that, you know, parents confiscated her stuff for an adult. I'm really hoping that's not what it is. But tell me if you have greater context about this because I was unable to find what this meant.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia, and lately in my life, I've been doing just a couple of things that have made me feel slightly like a crazy person. This isn't really just a recent thing. Some of them go back to way back in the past in my life, just all the time.
Okay, so this video is entitled I'm a Crazy Person, and she's going to rattle off some things that she feels makes her a bit crazy. It does come off as a little bit like I'm a quirky girl, but I will just preface this by saying keep in mind that Eugenia at this time is known for her skits, she's known for her trolling, and we don't necessarily know that all of these things are true. They could just be, you know, a story made up for the video.
A couple of days ago, I just kept having this pain thing in my right side right here. It kind of felt like, you know, like when you strain a muscle. So it was just kind of like whenever I moved, like whenever I'd be like moving like that.
Okay, so this is sounding like a pulled muscle or a pinched nerve, right? But although I just said we don't know that this story is leading to a truthful place, I did want to just leave it in because she's gearing up to a story that, given what we know is going on at the moment, has some really scary connotations to it. And I think it's quite telling that if there is any slice of truth to this at all, I think it's going to explain quite a bit about what's going on at the moment.
But I decided to go on the internet and look up pains on your right side. And then I started finding all this stuff about appendicitis. And I thought that I may have had appendicitis.
Yeah, you never want to Google your symptoms, do you? It's just one of those things. It's never going to lead to a good place. Do not Google. No Googling.
I ended up going to the ER. Once I got there, I was kind of stuck there for 8 hours. They kept trying to do like the ultrasound. For whatever reason, they couldn't see like any of my ovaries or uterus, is what they said. This is really, really awkward to talk about. That way they couldn't see if I had it. I was just kind of like, hey, I really don't think it's gonna be that anyway. This is most likely just gonna be a straight muscle, so could I go home? I'm just really not a big hospital fan. Well, like, hospital atmosphere just really freaks me out with like all the beeping every 2 seconds. But hey, I'm out of the hospital now. Out of the ER.
So what do we think? What's going on here? Is this just a skit for her video to sound, it's a little clickbaity, particularly what she's speaking about regarding internal imaging? And I'm wondering actually if this is where that whole trans thing came up. There's like a rumor that Eugenia is trans, and I don't know if this is what sparked it or if it's just a thing that circles around her. And even if she was, like, it's such a non-issue here. But what I wanted to focus on is the reaction to hospitals. Is there a seed of truth to that? Was this a case where she didn't let the hospital complete their imaging or complete their diagnostics and essentially left AMA? And does this highlight potentially, is Eugenia herself preventing her from going to the hospital when she needs it? Although I do not at all think that her parents get a pass in this situation if that's what's happening. But potentially, if she is that adverse to being in hospitals, that's what's causing the issue here. Tell me what you think. When I heard this, it's kind of like, and this is why I love these historical deep dives, because we have context of current day and we can see what's going on. And then we can start to put these little links together because, of course, we would not have necessarily thought that it would end up where we are in 2025. I think a lot of us were fearful that it would go this way, but I think a lot of us were kind of hoping that intervention would happen at some point, in those 10 years. But tell me what you think. Do you think it's a seed of truth? Do you think that this is actually what's driving the current day actions? Or do you think this is just made up clickbait for the video?
I've also lately been having the most bizarre dreams, and I always have bizarre dreams, but lately I've been having weird, bizarre dreams of policemen coming into my house. I've also had other dreams where dogs have raped me, but in about half of my dreams I die.
Okay, so this is not the only video that this content is brought up in, and I've got to say, it's uncomfortable. Now, the blanked out words, in case you missed them, were grape and game over. But I think ultimately, that there are a lot of people that say that there's a lot of meaning to dreams and, different things that happen can be depicting something. I do think it is just, I'm going to err on the side of science and say that it is just our brain trying to make sense of fragmented information that we may have gotten recently or in the past, and it's kind of constructing something weird. Although I do think that potentially something could be linked to reality here, because she had mentioned being swatted in a previous video, and she had also mentioned that she doesn't have all of her electronics, so potentially this could mean that there is a lot of police interaction at present. Or potentially people are calling for a welfare check and maybe she's feeling surrounded by police. As for the dog, I don't know. I will leave that up to you. Now, moving into the next portion of the video, it's not so much what's being said. I just wanted to highlight that this particular video that she's doing was a very, very popular video. It has a lot of views on it. And the next segment that I'm going to show you is by far the highest played portion. And it is bordering on indecent. Like, it is but a silky's fifth toe away from being indecent.
In some people's minds, talking to a pet rock and having a full-on conversation with them could be a sign that you're going crazy. In my opinion, I think that talking to a pet rock is an amazing way to spend your day and just a great way to get to know a dear friend.
So I've raised this before in other videos. I don't know if this is done on purpose or if it was an accident. What I would say, if it was an accident, why wouldn't you edit it out? Which makes me think that it is somewhat intentional. Unless she doesn't watch her videos back. I don't know. I feel like that would have been caught in the editing process. And if she really wanted to talk about her pet rock, she could have just re-recorded. So I am thinking that this year, well, we technically saw it starting right at the beginning of her YouTube career, but this year it has ramped up a little bit, where there have been some very unusual things done, particularly with soft toys. And I think that we are getting into the eccentric interest category here. And I think she is pandering to that kind of audience who's watching her, which I don't like, because this is not the platform for that. And it's not like other sites didn't exist at this time. And I'll tell you what does concern me about it, because I think that Eugenia, in every year of her existence on the internet, has been a vulnerable person. And I think that she's been a person at risk. And what concerns me is that it doesn't take a lot to be able to put together, oh, this got more views, which got me more money and got me more attention, which is my currency. So I'm going to continue to push the envelope on that and see what I can get away with. But because she is a vulnerable person, and because she doesn't have that support system in her background, it makes me worry that decisions are being made for the wrong reasons. And perhaps she does not have the foresight to be able to predict where this particular road goes.
And then the last thing that I always tend to do is I tend to see things that aren't really there. I don't know if something is wrong with my eyes or if it's just something that happens to a lot of people, but I'll just start seeing like squiggly, usually like a really bright color, usually like a purple. They'll just be like shining off the corner of my eye, and then I look, it's like, whoa, whoa. And then it's like, oh wait, it's not really there. And then it usually goes away after like a couple of seconds. Sometimes when I'm just looking at something, I'll start like seeing bugs. I'm like, ah! Then I actually like take a minute to actually look straight on. It's like, oh wait, there's no bug there. It's actually usually pretty relieving when I realize that there isn't actually a bug there.
So I found this interesting, and I think on one hand you could say, oh, she's just being, controversial. She's being the quirky girl, and that's getting her clicks. But on the other hand, if you caught my follow-up video, the one that was age restricted, I know. If you caught my follow-up video to the Mother's Day stream, I think I called it plus 5 days since the incident of the Mother's Day stream. I go through in depth some of the physical aspects around this condition, and visual disturbances are one of them. And it could be that she's just trying to say something to sound a bit funny here, but potentially we're actually already, this is 10 years ago, seeing those peripheral symptoms coming through as a result of the choices that she's made in her life.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. I'm outside today in the beautiful outdoors. A lot of bugs. Hopefully they don't get near me. Oh, there's like people screaming out here. Why are there people screaming out here? Anyways, you guys, so yeah, my family is inside the house. Well, most of them, well, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. I really like my family. Like, they're really cool and nice and stuff like that. But sometimes they're just kind of crazy. That must be why I'm so insane. It must just run in my blood or something.
I mean, yeah, relatable content. Geez, she brings up bugs a lot. I think this year already in videos that I've watched, she's brought it up in 5 different videos about being scared of bugs. And I wonder if that is kind of manifesting as an aspect of agoraphobia, because when you go outside, you have to be challenged by many things in the world. Little sentient beings running all over the place are one of them. And I'm just going to put this out there. Unless we're talking about a fair proportion of the Australian fauna, the easiest way to get over this kind of fear is to just, immerse yourself in it. I actually had extremely bad arachnophobia before I moved to the country. And once I got into the country, I realized how much nature is just absolutely everywhere. And a certain amount of nature will come inside the house. I kind of had this realization, and it was right at the beginning of my journey that has led me to this point, where I realized that I would be literally sitting in a corner rocking myself to comfort if I did not get okay with specifically the spider population in the country. In facing it, I managed to have one of the most, this is going to sound really silly, one of the most profound moments with a jumping spider. And these little things come in so many different shapes and sizes, but they're all so cute and so intelligent looking. This thing was sitting on my arm and, no joke, turned its little eyes up and looked me in the eye. And there was something about that moment where I realized this cute little thing was perceiving me, and it was perceiving its environment, and it's intelligent enough to be able to look you in the eye. That I don't know, it just completely changed my outlook on everything, because you immerse yourself and you desensitize yourself to that irrational fear. And I am only talking about irrational fears. I'm not saying that you should go pat a redback spider or a cobra or whatever. just the ones that can't actually hurt you. And it's so freeing because then you start to observe their world and understand what they're doing. And the odd huntsman regularly strolls on into the house. And I know that they don't want to be in the house. This is not their environment. They just took a wrong turn. So they want to go back outside. And that's what happens. And there's freedom in that. So yeah, agoraphobia is just one of those insidious anxieties that can absolutely take over your world. And the only way to at all fix that is to start challenging it at every single turn you possibly can.
Because I've kind of realized that all of my family is kind of crazy too, in their own ways, that I just figured I would talk about some of the ways in which they are crazy today.
My nuggets, if I did a video like this, it would be a very, very long video. I'm not sure my computer would be able to handle it. What about you? Do you find this relatable?
My dad doesn't tend to ever remember my birthday or my brother's birthday, or basically any birthdays or things like that, I guess. I think he knows my mom's birthday. Let's hope so.
So this is a fairly small thing, I think, but it does actually remain consistent with the image that she's been giving us of him, which is very checked out and very absent. And I don't know if she's intending to depict him like this, but this is absolutely the vibe that we're getting from this father. Can I just say that I know that Eugenia has a problem with people speaking about her family, but as far as I'm concerned, when you have put up a video and you have kept up a video on your channel, you've made it fair game to speak about. And I talk about this a lot with Amber Lynn as well. As soon as you put it on the table, it is now okay to speak about it. And I find it interesting how animated she gets today about when people speak about specifically her father and brother. And I find it curious that she hasn't gone and like wiped her entire channel of that kind of content.
Then my mom, my crazy mom, she's cool though. She always sings to the dog and she makes up like her own songs. And she sings this song to him over and over again. It's a song that she totally came up with on her own, but these are the words. I go to the river, I go to the sea. And she used to do this like rap kind of thing where she would be like, to the sea. But now she's changed this instead into more words. To see the one I love, to see the buzz. Because the dog's name is Buzz. So I don't know if it's some kind of like weird like bestiality kind of song. Let's hope not. Bestiality is not a good thing. At least I don't think it's a good thing because I like animals.
So again, we're dealing with the intimacy with, you know, the furry family members. I normally would brush this off as just, oh, you're just trying to be, you know, an edgy girl, which is kind of what we did back then. It comes across as very cringe these days. But I just am uncomfortable with how often she brings this and also intimacy with other family members up so regularly. It seems to be more than just oh, this is just a silly joke I'm going to tell. It is weird and it's coming off as really weird. Having said that, though, I mean, I was kind of nonsensical 20 as well, but I'm uncomfortable with where her head is at regarding any kind of intimacy. It throws a lot of red flags for me, and I mentioned this in chapter 1 as well, that it makes me concerned that there was something that potentially happened to her or around her in her childhood, because there is a link that is off when it comes to this kind of topic, and I just don't know what that means, but it makes me worry for young Eugenia.
My grandma's probably the craziest of everybody. She will always just call the house on different holidays and wish us a happy whatever day that it's not. I think it was Halloween. And she called and she was like, Merry Christmas. She'll also call on days when it's not any of our birthdays and she tends to think it's our birthday and she's like, Happy birthday. I don't know if my grandma still does do this or not, because I would assume you could get in some major trouble. She would just call the police or the fire department and she would just ask them totally pointless questions that she was curious on, that really were not at all emergencies, like how the weather forecast is going to be, or she would ask them directions on how to get to a certain place in the town.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think her grandma actually passed from complications of dementia. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm just trying to troll my Eugenia memory banks of timelines, but I'm pretty sure her grandmother was struggling with something like that for quite a while. I've got this visual of a very unwell-looking Eugenia throwing a balloon at her very unwell-looking grandmother in a hospital bed or a care bed of some description. So what she's describing there is not like family insanity, but just a degenerative issue that her grandmother happened to have.
My brother is 17 years old. I know a lot of people like Disney, but he's like obsessed with Disney. We go to Disney World kind of a lot because he always just like begging to go to Disney World and stuff like that. He actually goes around and meets like all the characters and he gets so excited over it. I'm kind of convinced he does think they're real. At least he doesn't like Frozen because Frozen is incredibly annoying.
Does anybody else find this as interesting as I do? Okay, so I don't know. It's possible that it was a case of Eugenia has always loved Disney, and just at this point in her life, she felt like it was uncool to admit that. And so she's saying it's her brother, her younger brother, who really loves it. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about her brother potentially being on the spectrum. I think it's very plausible that they both are. But if that's the case, you know, maybe that's the safe place that they return to as a family. And that's why it is such a source of comfort for her today. On the other hand, it's possible that at this point she wasn't really into it. But when the regression happened, that I think a really, really strong case can be made for 2019. When that regression happened, it's possible that Disney was so incredibly familiar because they had been going for so long as a family at this point, that this is something that she has a positive association with in her brain, and on the regression seeks that same kind of comfort that potentially she doesn't get elsewhere or can't identify elsewhere. But I did find this interesting, and not her saying Frozen is incredibly annoying. I'm gonna put this right here.
I honestly don't even know most of my family members. I really only know like my immediate family, like my parents and my grandma for the most part, and my brother, obviously. But I have occasionally seen my aunt and my uncle. Last time I saw them, they were like telling me how I should leave the internet because the internet is just such a scary world.
How telling is this? Okay, so usually when there is no contact, it's because something significant has happened or something cannot be reconciled. Like, for example, a decision being made by a parent that is leading a certain teenager down the wrong path, perhaps. I don't know. There's many, many reasons why a family does not stay in contact. But I do find it interesting that it's largely just her immediate family. And when she did see her aunt and uncle, they're saying that she shouldn't be on the internet. And why would that be? Because I think any adult at this time looking at Eugenia and looking at what she's doing and potentially the money that she's making could see that this is going to be detrimental for her down the path. And can you imagine being the person who's seeing your sister or your brother with their child who is in a very, very poor condition doing something that has some questionable content to it and not being able to live with yourself without saying your piece? And I am a very live and let live person. I don't like to enforce my perspectives on people. Sorry, I just realized how ironic that is. Because I have a channel that is enforcing my perspective, but you have a choice to watch this content. If you were somebody in my life, I would not necessarily just volunteer this information on you. But I can understand that in such a dire kind of situation where you can see that there's such a mental health issue and such a health hazard happening that you have to speak your piece. And what if that piece that's been spoken is met with denial or delusion or Deb, basically, in a nutshell? And is that enough for you to go, I physically cannot watch this deteriorate? I have to protect myself and my immediate sphere from this kind of heartache. That's where my mind goes. There are a whole host of possibilities here, of course, but another possibility to where my mind goes is, what if I'm right about Eugenia's childhood? And what if it was a trusted family member? I'm just going to put that out there. So my point being, this is very telling. Whatever the situation, whether I've pinpointed the exact thing or not, something is going on here with this family.
So as you guys can see, now you know why I'm crazy. I'm not really bashing my family at all. Just saying, like, you know, some crazy things that they do. I really can't be bashing them at all because I'm probably the most insane one out of everybody.
I don't love the word insane. I really don't. I think everybody has their own things going on. And she says she's not bashing her family here, but I do wonder if they were okay with this video going up. I don't know if I'd be super comfortable, especially the stuff around the grandmother. I don't think that should be necessarily broadcast publicly. But at some point, obviously, the father and the brother have decided that they do not want to be mentioned online. And I'm guessing that there would have been an event for that to happen. Otherwise, they probably would have been casual about it. So is it this kind of video that sparked that?
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. I am back in Disney World because VidCon is over and I'm here for like 3 more days because like I said, my brother is like overly obsessed with Disney. So I always end up being here.
She does make mention that she was going to film a VidCon video, but I could not actually find it. So I don't know if she just never uploaded it or if it was taken down at some point and I can't locate it. But it's disappointing because compared to 2014, where there was a lot of interaction with the outside world, 2015 brought zero interaction with the outside world in her videos. And this is the closest that we get. We get a couple of videos when she's away on holiday, and we get this little video of her just kind of speaking to the camera at Disney. It's not conducive to a good mental health kind of situation, especially when we're already in the throes of dealing with a very severe mental health issue.
Anyways, so yeah, VidCon ended and it was really fun. Like it was awesome getting to meet a lot of you guys. It was a lot of great moments and it was good because I got to see a lot of my friends who have like met at these kind of convention things. So
it would have been great to see that. She showed us VidCon last year, but yeah, no, we just don't get to see it this year. And can we also just take a moment to talk about the voice that she's using in this video? I think her natural voice is actually quite low, although this video I think it's being exaggerated a little bit because she's trying to be subtle with her recording in public. But compared to what we're getting now, and although yes, I do think the voice is put on, the condition itself can actually cause vocal changes as well. But just listen to it.
In some ways it was not so great because it was honestly totally ridiculous, to be honest, some of it. I really, really, really don't want people to take this the wrong way. But it was a lot of like fangirls. Whenever like super big YouTubers would just like walk around, literally like hundreds of girls would just start running around chasing after them and screaming. And it was kind of honestly scary at some points. Like there was at least like 5 times where I literally thought I was going to be trampled.
That sounds pretty full on. Like for somebody who clearly has social anxiety and a touch of agoraphobia, like that would be pretty full on. I personally really, really hate conventions. I've had to work conventions in a past life. It's just the, sensory overload that goes on. I always walk away with a migraine and it's rough. It's bright, it's loud, and there's a lot of people and it's just, ugh. And even to be going to something where people are celebrating you, it would still be a lot. Absolutely.
Also, there was some really, really creepy guys there. Like, there was actually one guy, I was like filming a video that will be up on my channel soon with a friend that I met there. Long story short, one of the guys who actually worked at the hotel I was staying at started like hardcore hitting on me. Like, he started like grabbing onto me. He's like, "Do you want to make out? How old are you?"
I mean, I think my nuggets, you're listening. Most of you are well past this age and this kind of era. And some of you are still in it. But does this sound weird to you? Does this sound like a real person in the real world? And I don't want that to come off sounding victim blamey. That's not where I'm heading with this. But I wonder if, it's a situation where Eugenia is definitely a people pleaser and she is socially awkward. So these kind of situations that she finds herself in, because she's mentioned a few, because there was a weird kiss in the hotel room. There's creepy old dudes that she likes to talk about a lot. And then there's this situation. And I kind of wonder if her natural state of dealing with social interaction, particularly social interaction that potentially makes her uncomfortable, maybe comes off as a bit of a, yes, I want you to keep going situation. And I worry about that. I worry that at this point in her life, she hasn't at least developed any sort of coping mechanism to how to deal with this, because clearly she didn't want this situation. And I don't know, even my ridiculously sheltered upbringing. I, by this age, had firmly worked on my RBF, and it is in full swing still today, my nuggets, let me tell you. But yeah, I think this is why I say I think homeschooling during high school years is not particularly ideal, or at least with no other, social activities going on, because you don't learn the skills in a comfortable environment to be able to stand up for yourself or say what you need or want. And I mean, we know where all of this goes. It's just nowhere good.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. Something that always ends up happening to me is I always have the most weird, crazy, bizarre dreams in the world. I've mentioned a couple of them kind of throughout my videos, but I never really went into detail.
Okay, so she goes into a lot of detail about the grape with fuzzy things, and also talks about her dad game overing her in dreams, and just a whole lot of dreams that I will be honest with you, I was uncomfortable enough watching them that I do not want that content on my channel. And it's still up there. It's called Weird Dreams. If you want to watch it, it's up on her channel. But I just wanted to acknowledge that this does go into quite a lot of detail around this subject. And put it this way, I kind of hope that she is just telling stories for her channel. And I'll leave it at that.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. So something that I've come to realize during my time of being alive is that most people really suck. I'm not trying to say that you suck, because I'm assuming that you're a person as you're watching this.
Okay, so this video is called I Hate People. I'm a little in that camp myself. I personally prefer the companionship of fuzzy, feathered, scaly, furry things. I get that, I do. This video kind of starts off as a little bit of a rant around things that people do that annoy her, but it quickly devolved into clearly just addressing her haters online. And I've mentioned, I think in almost every video, that she has not reconciled to this day of how to deal with haters. And if you watch my last video, I think it's Hate versus Halls, I really go in depth about explaining how I believe that her perception of what people are doing is misguided. So I won't go into it again deeply here, but let's just let her talk and see what she has to say.
First of all, whenever you go into a store and you have all those annoying sales ladies who keep coming up to you, just like, if I needed help, then I would ask for it.
Spoken like a person who's never had to work sales. I mean, yeah, we don't like to be approached, especially if we're the sort of person that just wants to be in our own head and we know what we're looking for, and we don't need assistance in that way. But I think anybody who's worked service or worked sales or worked in corporate knows that you just really have to do the agenda that the business has assigned for you. And it's kind of highlighting her ignorance to the working world in this moment, to put this online in this way. And yes, when you've been blessed with the only job you've ever had to do is a YouTube content creator, well, I get it.
To try to avoid people, something I do is just bring my phone everywhere and just try to stare at it and look intensely interested in whatever I'm doing on my phone. And then when people tell you to like put your phone away, it's like, that destroys the purpose.
And again, I'm an introvert, I get it, I really do. But in these kind of formative years, even being in the early 20s, absolutely, because you're learning how to adult in an adult world. And it's not something that comes naturally, and it's something that you generally have to make a lot of mistakes in before you kind of work it out. And it took me much longer than I'd care to admit to actually work this out. And potentially what people are requesting when the phone is out is, can you just interact with me in a social way? I want to talk to you. I find you interesting. I want to be able to converse, and I want you to be able to learn these skills potentially. So I think it's not really anything that is a massive standout. It's just highlighting that really kind of social isolation that she seeks and indulges in. Because when you are an introvert, for all my extrovert nuggets out there who love to be around people and get their energy from being around people, it is taxing when you're an introvert to be around other people, even people that you love and even people that you like to be around. It's just always going to be a battery drain in that sense. And you will recharge your battery by being alone or doing isolated activities. But I think it's not a good situation to be in when you're like isolated all the time. And it can really get into a self-perpetuating cycle as an introvert because you seek that. But there's so much in the world that requires you to not be that, in a sense. So it's a balance, is what I'm trying to say.
Another way that I try to avoid social situations is by wearing headphones everywhere I go. And when people still keep talking to you as you're wearing headphones, it's like, why? I'm not just wearing them for the fun of it. Like, clearly I'm listening to music and, trying to not be social. So why keep talking to someone who's wearing headphones?
I don't know the context that she's talking about here. I actually used to do this on public transport because I'm just not somebody who super enjoys talking to strangers that I'm never going to see again on public transport. But like, she doesn't give us any context. So there's places where that is totally acceptable to do. But is she doing that in a restaurant, or is she, I'm trying to think of places that you wouldn't do that, like at a family gathering, for example? I don't know. I don't know what this means.
Some people are just really, really creepy in general. Like, I've definitely met a lot of really creepy people and had some online people do some creepy things. So, I don't know. Some people are just really scary and freak me out.
So again, this comment makes me wonder if this is connected to her electronic devices being confiscated in some way, shape, or form. Did something happen that she's not talking about? And I'd be really interested. I don't know if she speaks about it down the track. Maybe Nuggets, please tell me if you know, and point me towards the video if she has done it for sure. But yes, unfortunately, dealing in the online space is going to bring out that kind of thing. This is not my first time around the internet, my Nuggets, this channel, and I've been really fortunate that this community is just so incredible. I really mean that. You are incredible. And there hasn't been any of that kind of thing. But other times, in other areas where I've been viral, there's absolutely been that element. But I don't know that I would be willing to address that to the community on a video, because it does kind of send the message that you have been acknowledged from that behavior. And I don't like it, but now I'm giving you attention. And then that in turn is going to bolster their efforts. And that's a problem.
Some people honestly just ask way too many questions that really are none of your business. And it's like, why do you need to know stuff that doesn't affect your life?
Well, that's just being a public figure. And this is what I've been talking about in my last few videos, where she's having a very personal situation go on at the moment, like in current day, and it's happening very publicly, and people want to know about it, whether they are coming from a place of care or a place of just morbid curiosity. But I think it's just the nature of being a public figure. People want to know about you. And it's these little things where I think Eugenia, the young content creator Eugenia, would have really benefited from somebody's guidance. Because to reframe that of, well, people aren't just asking inappropriate questions. This is actually a sign of your success and that they're engaged in your life. And it's absolutely appropriate to set boundaries with these people, but you shouldn't see it as a bad thing. People get curious. I'm actually starting to see that from you, my Nuggets, which has been blowing my mind. I thought I was the boring part of my content, but apparently not. I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, I think she could have, I'm probably going to say this in so many videos, she really would have benefited from that solid guiding figure that I don't know that her mother had the potential to be. I don't think she has the capability to be that. And I don't know if it's just because she's so layered in denial, or if she's just not kind of savvy enough or bright enough in a way to be able to be that figure. But yeah, I don't believe she had it. She needed it.
Also, a lot of people are just really rude in general. Whether that's like the internet or real life, people just tend to be really rude. Like, people who don't like my videos are just like, Eugenia, I hope you get cancer and you drink and you die. And I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry you don't like my video. I didn't do anything to you though. Like, why do you hate me?
Man, listening to this, sorry I had to blank out so much of this. I know for a fact that I'd get age restricted if I left that in. It is self and then something down the way resembling harm, if you get what I mean. And I wonder how many of her videos are actually age restricted and so therefore would not be shown in like unless you're deliberately searching for it or on her channel. Yeah, I think this is absolutely crossing a line because you know my views on people saying what they think about a video, that's absolutely fine. But when it gets into that kind of territory of telling people to take certain actions or wishing certain things on people, there is absolutely no excuse for that, and it's foul and should not be behavior that any adult at least should be having within their realm of conduct. Hopefully these people are like 13-year-old keyboard warriors, but who knows? Who knows?
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. Let's talk about random things.
Oh, this video, this was, okay, so we're getting a little bit further through the year, and if you watched my copy-paste content video, she really starts to recycle these kind of nonsense topics. And this is basically a video entitled My Life is Being Ruined, where she just complains about various technology from beginning to end. Yeah, this is not your groundbreaking kind of content. This is Eugenia industrializing, putting out a whole heap of videos for this year, as well as live streaming and potentially burning out a little bit on ideas. So here's some little clips of it.
Did you guys ever notice like how annoying technology can be sometimes? The other day, I was having this really big problem because I was on my computer and it suddenly started telling me that my hard drive was out of space. And then like the iPhone 6 is kind of annoying too because I saw it at the Apple store when I was at the Apple store and it's actually so big now. Like it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like if you hold it, it feels like more uncomfortable than this phone. So like if you're taking a picture of yourself, you're just like, and it's like, it's so big. And I don't know, it's actually kind of hard to use because it's like, just like this super big thing. Sometimes I even start missing razors. Like, do you guys remember back in the day when razors were popular?
I feel really old. I feel really, really old. Moving on.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. So recently online, I found the coolest pair of shoes in the world. And I was like, I need to buy these shoes. Now, the one thing about these shoes, which I was a little bit concerned with since I bought them actually, was that they look impossible to walk in. I have tons of these kind of shoes where there's no heel and it's just backless. And people are always like, how do you walk in those? But it's actually super easy. So then these are what these shoes are actually like. But these are a bit different than the ones I tend to wear. Because look at this. As you can see, this one here is a lot thicker.
Man, I just missed this trend. It was such a big thing back then. I had, by this point, gone into like corporate kind of settings, so I was not wearing these kind of shoes at that time. But they were such a big thing. I want to say it was Lady Gaga, but probably not. It was probably drag queens because they tend to be at the cutting edge of fashion. But they're still a thing today, right? They're still relatively popular to have this illusion that there's no heel. And so she's going to show us.
Obviously, we need to put the shoes on so we can walk in the shoes. First shoes going on. So this is how the shoes look on. I think they're just so cool.
So this is the second shoe video she actually did in this year. And I don't know that this one is any more exciting than the first one. To me, this is feeling a little eccentric interest vibe. And I don't know if it's because maybe people saw the shoe haul and they're like, oh, we want to see you, fully walk in them and try them on. I don't know the situation, but there is a little bit of an ick factor going on here for me because it doesn't just feel like an influencer with their shoes. It feels, yeah.
I think that I have clearly accomplished the task of walking in these amazing shoes. See, I think it was honestly just that fear in my head that kept me from walking in them. And that's why you shouldn't let fear get in the way of things in your life, because sometimes it can stop you from doing things that you can very well do and may very well worth be doing. Like, I think these shoes are definitely worth keeping because they're awesome. That's why you just shouldn't let fear get in the way of you doing things that you want to do in your life, because you can probably do whatever you want to do, and you can do anything as long as you can just get over that fear and try to do it and just go into the world and do it.
So listening to Eugenia here talk about tackling fears, talking about being able to do anything, and then also having come fresh off editing those Mother's Day stream videos, I just sat there for a bit. I was completely speechless. I so wish she had have been able to take her own advice here. I think the delivery of this is very questionable at best. All of the words she's saying are correct. And I don't know if she's just picked them up off another influencer or wherever she's got them. I sincerely don't think therapy would be on the cards, but it's just very ironic to hear coming from her, somebody who is so deeply wrapped up in their fears that they can't find their own way out to even survive. Literally survive. So that leads me to the next video. Now, this video was actually filmed earlier in the year, and I've just pulled it out because I thought that it would be a good one to finish on, and it has a lot of talking points to it. And it directly leads on from that previous one. So this video was called How to Be Happy, and it's got a little bit of a different vibe for a Eugenia video.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. Today I wanted to talk about something that I think is a little more of a serious subject than most of my other videos. A lot of time I receive like a lot of messages from you guys, like, you know, where you would tell me things like you want to kill yourself, or how you're feeling really depressed, or you're hurting yourself, or just anything. And whenever I do receive those kind of messages, I honestly just, you know, wish there was a way that I could like help you guys and just say something to make you guys feel better.
I believe that from Eugenia. I think that at her core, and it's very difficult to judge her these days on who she is, because I think at this point we're really looking at somebody who is completely controlled by the condition, is suffering with cognitive impairment, and is caught up with some fairly negative people in the world. But I do think at the core, Eugenia is a genuinely sensitive and caring person. So I think we are seeing a real moment here for her.
And yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to just make this video and just talk about like some ways that maybe you can like try to make yourself feel better about yourself, and just hopefully some information that will help you see things clearly, I guess. I don't know.
So this is going to be delivered from somebody who still doesn't know how to deal with bullies, doesn't know how to deal with not even hate comments, but like neutral comments, criticism. And that, by the way, is not a criticism on her, because at this age, I also didn't know these things. But I don't know that, given her demographic and who she's speaking to and who she is, that this is a good thing to be communicating in any way, shape, or form.
If there's other people who are like constantly telling you to change yourself or to change like who you are, I honestly do not believe that you should listen to those kind of people. A lot of people may not accept you for the way that you look, or the way that you dress, or just the way that you do things and for who you are. A lot of people, honestly, I have found in my experiences in life, can be very ignorant and judgmental, and they will just judge people without knowing a single thing about it.
Okay, so I think for this video, if you could run with the subtext with me and what this is talking about, because on one hand you could take this as, oh, is she talking about people's sexuality or fashion or, you know, emo hair or whatever. But I think the subtext of this is saying, I need you to accept me for the shape that I am and not criticize me for it, or not accuse me of being in a certain condition for it. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I have to dance around all of these words. I hope what I'm getting out is coming across to you.
By no means that you need to change yourself to please other people. And if you do end up like changing yourself for other people, then you're just like not going to be happy with yourself. I mean, I receive hate every single day. I get people telling me things like to go kill myself and pointing out everything they don't like about me. A lot of people will just judge you without even knowing anything about you. I mean, I've had people just look at me from like one video. They don't know me.
And yes, people do this. Like, people have been doing this to celebrities since forever. This is also the nature of being a public person. But I think, you know, with brains being the little assumption engines that they are, they do tend to want to pigeonhole people. It does seem to be largely how our brains want to work. And I do agree that you should not just jump to a conclusion of who people are. As for saying you shouldn't change yourself for other people, fundamentally, of course, I agree with that. But the subtext, again, are we saying you can't challenge me for my condition that I have, because this is just who I am? It's kind of moral grandstanding in a way that people can't argue it, if that makes sense. And I don't like that this message is kind of being shrouded by I'm going to tell my very young demographic how to handle this kind of thing. This is not what this is about.
at all, but people will just judge you from that one video without even getting to know you as a person. People are really that ignorant where they just watch one thing of you or just look at something. They'll see one thing about you that they don't like, and then they'll just judge your entire worth over that. Then are those really people that are worth worrying about anyway? Because I don't think that they are.
Again, fundamentally correct. And I would even go so far as to not addressing these people, although I do understand that she's actually speaking to her younger audience at the moment. And it is a fundamentally correct message to say that if somebody is going to make a snap judgment of you like that, then they're not going to be a quality person in your life. That's fine. But subtext, my nuggets, subtext.
I have even gone through periods where, like, I've heard so much crap about my makeup or the way I dress or whatever, and sometimes I did kind of feel like I needed to, like, you know, change myself because of what I was hearing. But then I felt like, you know, whenever I would do that, I would just end up making myself unhappy.
Yeah, so this could be taken as I need to be true to myself, I need to feel authentic in my actions, and I 100% support that. On the other hand, it could also be taken as, well, people have been trying to lead me down a path of health, and that challenges me, and I don't want to be challenged. So I just want to be left to do my own thing, and I just want to live my life in that way.
Some people might point out your flaws and what makes you different. They might try to make that into a negative thing. Those things can actually be so positive, and everything that is like different about you or unique, or even things that, you know, you might think are wrong with yourself, those are actually things that make you special, and those are the kind of things that you should actually be embracing instead of trying to hide from people.
I agree. It's funny, isn't it? When you are a kid, I think you want nothing more than to just be the same as everybody. Then when you get older and you kind of get a sense of self and you get your own personality and things like that, you realize that, oh, it's actually the differences in life that make me kind of cool. And you actually want to be a little bit weird. I was in primary school in the 90s. My mother was in a lesbian relationship, a very long-term lesbian relationship. And in the 90s, this was not a good thing. It was not an accepted thing. And I remember looking around at all of my classmates' parents, and they were all in, you know, hetero kind of relationships and married and not divorced either, by the way. And I hated it. I hated it as a kid. All I wanted was to have a mother that looked like all the other mothers and to be in a situation that everybody else was in. And growing up, of course, you know, I actually would regard it as one of the good things that my mother did for me as a child. And that was, I was very exposed to the LGBT community from a very young age. And as a result, I've grown up with it being completely normalized, and I forget sometimes that that is not the case for everybody. One of the very few things that she had to offer for me. And of course, you know, you grow up as an adult and you're like, yeah, well, at least in a time that it was not as well accepted, she was able to stand up and be herself. This is not all a positive story, by the way, my nuggets. One day I will elaborate, but it's just a funny thing. But you can really get the sense that she's speaking to a much younger demographic when she's saying these things, because adults, I think for the large part, by mid-20s or so, you kind of get a handle on this topic. I think that would be around, I don't know, my sense of time and development is sometimes a little skewed. So tell me if you think that's right.
Sometimes you need to be sad to feel happy. If there was all happiness, then you would never, like, get to appreciate it. So, you know, there's gonna always be good times and bad times. You have to live through the bad times to also experience the good times.
So we get philosophical, Eugenia. What she's saying here is correct. And I think that this is one of those situations where she's either just learnt this concept or she desperately wants to believe it, because we can see by her history that she does not apply this. And she's right in saying that if you've had a really good day, you only know that it is a really good day because you've had really bad days to compare it to. And it's only with that comparison that we're able to acknowledge the difference between things. That's kind of the yin and yang kind of idea of things, that one has to exist in order for the other. And, you know, talking about having pets, well, you grieve so much when it's their time to pass, but you know that you're only experiencing that level of grief because of how much love you've had. And it's just the way life tends to balance things. But unfortunately, giving into all of the fears and the condition like Eugenia has, she did not put this into practice.
Everything is temporary. Happiness is temporary, sadness is temporary. Nothing is like a permanent feeling. You can get through it if you just keep going and believe that you can, then you can totally get through it.
So what she's saying here is actually kind of what I try to articulate when Amber Lynn, if you've watched my Amber content, she is so completely locked into whatever she's experiencing in that moment. So if she's feeling defeated, then she acts defeated. If she's feeling uplifted, then she acts uplifted. It's one of those things where you don't always have to do everything your brain is thinking or do everything that your brain is feeling. And to be able to be in a situation where maybe you are experiencing a lot of anxiety and you can feel a panic attack coming on, there is power in being able to say, I don't feel good right now, but this will pass. It always passes. Even though in the moment it feels like it's never going to pass and that's just your eternity now, it always passes, always. And that can be applied to all manner of different feelings and situations. Like maybe you've got a really bad tummy upset and you're feeling really nauseated. Well, that will pass too. Or maybe you're just having one of those days where everything is going wrong. Well, that will pass too. And it's kind of acknowledging that, well, we don't have to give in to the feeling in that moment. We can just kind of ride it out like the wave that it is.
Also, sometimes if you can just find a hobby or just kind of something to distract you from all the hard times in your life in that moment, then sometimes that can help so much. Just find something that you really enjoy doing that makes you want to wake up in the morning and go do that thing.
I'm gonna go send this to Amber. I'll be right back.
Also, I don't really think that you should rely on other people to make you happy. Then if those people leave, or if you have a falling out with them or whatever, you no longer have that to rely on. If that's your only thing that you're relying on for your happiness, then when they leave, then you feel like you have nothing left. If there's something that you want to change about yourself, then by all means, like, go do it. If you want to change your hairstyle or your makeup, or you want to do something to change your look or whatever, then that's your decision. Like, it's your body and it's your decision. So, you go do what you want to do. But just always make sure you're doing those things for yourself and not for other people. It's most important that you like yourself and that you're happy with yourself and you accept yourself.
I so wish Eugenia had been able to apply this to her life, because she is exactly on point right there. You should not rely on self-soothing from anything or anyone external to yourself. Those self-soothing mechanisms, they have to come from within, and it can be activities that you do, or it could be just meditations or thought exercises or whatever. But I remember, I hate talking about my old adult self, because I cannot stress how far I've come, my nuggets, and it's a cringe, and I find it difficult I'm more comfortable speaking about my childhood than my adult self. But something that I used to do when I was deep within my poor mental health, at the core of it, I was dealing with the immense amount of fears and incorrect thought processes that my mother had trained me to have in order to keep me dependent on her. So the cause wasn't my fault, but the actions that followed were. And I would be feeling so bad, and I would be feeling teary and panicky and just bad. Like, the sensation I'm talking about. It's just yuck. You just don't feel right. And I would go to my husband, who was doing things, doing his own little day and whatever, and I would be seeking his comfort. I would be seeking him to make me feel better, not realizing that I then almost transferred the bad day that I was having to him, because that would then, his person is struggling. So that then takes the wind out of his sails and stops him from doing what he needed to be doing, and put him in a bad headspace. And like, who am I to take my bad feeling and then transfer it to somebody else? And that's not okay. And it's great if you have those loved ones around you who want to help and want to see the best of you, but it's not fair for you to lay that expectation at their feet to fix you and your bad feeling, without considering that they're also going through their own things and having their own feelings and having their own day. It's about getting to the point where you take responsibility for your own feeling, your own state of being, and putting the expectation on yourself that you're going to make yourself feel better. And we do that by it's kind of like if you have a flu or, a minor illness in some way, that you take the steps that you need to feel better. So, you need to hydrate, maybe you need some medication, you need some rest, and you do those things in order to heal yourself and make yourself feel better. And when we're talking about a psychological state or an emotional state, it's absolutely no different. So it's putting into practice the skills to be able to acknowledge how you're feeling, to know what you need to do to actually fix that feeling, and developing the confidence within yourself to be able to self-manage in that way. And I've talked many, many, many times in my various videos about the different coping mechanisms that I've put in place, that I know there's a series of activities that I can do to make myself feel better, to improve my mood. And a lot of the time, I'm not going to lie to you, my nuggets, it boils down to some exercise. And I don't know if you've noticed, but if you have ever done this in your life, when you're seeking external validation or you're seeking external coping mechanisms or soothing mechanisms, it never feels enough. It's almost like it's not quite delivered in the right way, or it's not delivered enough in volume. In a sense, it kind of leaves you feeling almost hungry for more of that. And when you learn and you develop those skills to do it for yourself, it is much more satiating. It feels almost like a better value of the thing. So if you're finding that you are in a position where you are looking for that external thing, I've gone into this a lot in previous videos. And the best way to do it is to just start trying things, different activities, different hobbies, different exercises, meditation, music, whatever, just try it all. And bear in mind that these things may not make you feel exactly the way you want to feel in the moment when you first start them. And I like to use guitar as a really good example for that, because I find guitar now very, very therapeutic. But when you first start, you can't change chords very quickly, and nothing really sounds like a song, and your fingers hurt because you haven't developed the calluses. But after not too long of consistent practice, you start to be able to actually play a song, and maybe you're singing with it and you notice that you can actually play for a reasonably large amount of time because you've spent the time to develop the calluses. So don't just dismiss something because you've tried it once and you feel like it wasn't for you. So you can't be relying on these people or external things to make you feel okay. As soon as I kind of had that awakening of, oh, I was being a cloaca, I kind of took responsibility for my own feelings. And now I have a whole host of my own self-soothing things that are all me-centric, so I'm not relying on anybody else to fix it for me.
If you can just seriously just stop caring what other people think. Like, I used to care too, but once you honestly just stop caring, you would just feel so much better. You would just feel like you can just go be yourself and not care.
Okay, so nothing about this Eugenia makes me think that she has been able to stop caring what people think. And that's what makes me feel like this is something she's learned and something that she desperately wants to apply, but has not been able to yet. And sometimes it's really difficult when you hear something or learn something that you really want to apply to yourself, but because you don't have a tangible set of actions or a solid image in your head about what that will look like, your brain almost rejects it. And have you ever heard like a really inspirational quote or something and you've gone, oh, that is life-changing, I am going to remember that forever. And then like 2 weeks later, you're operating as though you never read it in the first place. It's just because the tangible actions were not in place, so your brain was not able to latch onto it. And I think that is what we're seeing right here with Eugenia.
I guarantee you, like, every single person who you watch on YouTube, or just who you look up to, or just anyone in general, they've gone through that period where they have felt like they hate themselves.
And I think that's true. This is what makes me think that all of this was really about her, and that the subtext that I was highlighting is actually the message that's going on. Because what she's saying here is, you're looking at me like I'm perfect and I'm struggling. I kind of wish she had have kept this honesty with her community. I think it would have gone a really long way, particularly with dealing with things like disappearing for a few days and, the constant dismissal of her community. But to say, yeah, everybody goes through things. And again, it really feels like she is talking to a much, much younger demographic here. And that is disturbing on so many levels. I cannot stress. Everybody has shit. Everybody goes through things. It's a thing. And if you ever think that you're looking at somebody that has everything together, either they're really good at putting on a mask or they've spent time and effort into practicing the skills of how to get themselves together, and it would have been a journey for them. So, final thoughts. I think you probably see what I mean in the contrast of what's been going on in current day compared to this. It is just so black and white. It's shocking. It really, really is. And I really enjoy doing these historical deep dives just to get this illumination on what we're looking at today, where it came from, and where the path deviated so badly, because if I'm right, we are very much pre-regression here. Because if you take this Eugenia that we've just seen, speaking about all of those coping mechanisms and philosophical lessons, this Eugenia at 20 seems so much more mature than Eugenia at 30. And I've mentioned before, but this actually followed my progression as well. I was developing and developing and developing, and then at a certain point, it halted and regressed. And my mother had a lot to do with that in the encouragement of it. I don't know if her mother is doing the same thing, but I can see red flags personally, having lived it. But sometimes when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So I could be totally off. Maybe it's not her mother, but it is a shame that this kind of self-improvement on some level didn't continue. And I think we will see in the next few years that I cover where that happened. And I could be wrong thinking that it was the Jacqueline Glenn incident that caused it. It could have been before that, but we shall find out together, my nuggets. But that's all the clucks I have left to give today. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey, 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 hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!